so much for that lovely introduction, and thank you for inviting us to speak with such distinguished fellow speakers here today. It's really a pleasure to be here. Maybe it's hard to know where one should start, because you said we are normally operating as artists, and it was maybe daring, some people say, of the Istanbul Biennial to invite us to curate an exhibition on this scale, which is obviously something that we haven't done before. Actually, the director of the Istanbul Biennial is here with us this afternoon, Birgit Örer, and we also have other members of the staff in Istanbul, Elif and Gamze are also here somewhere behind. Lovely to have you with us. And I'm sure you will also maybe answer any questions if people have some questions afterwards when we all gather in the courtyard. But maybe I just wanted to start with saying that we have developed a long relationship with Istanbul and the Biennial over the past almost 2 decades. I mean, we came probably the first time in year 2000 when we came for a research trip for the Biennial that was curated by Yuko Hasegawa in 2001. And then we've been coming back for other projects like Fulya Temci's pedestrian projects, also in public space, in Istanbul in 2005, and then took part in the 2011 and 2013 biennials as artists. So we have, got many friends, and also close relationship to both artists and curator colleagues and people in the cultural scene in general. And I think maybe also through this we sort of came to this agreement, like in April last year, as you mentioned, of taking on this kind of challenging task of curating a biennial.
We, of course, would take a starting point in our interest. The biennial is not going to reflect our own working method. It's going to be an opportunity for us to show a lot of other artists' working methods, different generations. It's not going to be a zeitgeist biennial. There are people who are historic positions. They're like older generation artists, and they're very young artists invited for the biennial. But our interest has been throughout the years how we as human beings organize our private domestic lives in our homes and in our neighborhoods. Because it tells a lot about the world situation, how these things change. I mean, in some parts of the world, the notion of home has become more traditional in the past 10 years, and in other parts of the world, it has become totally futuristic, where they make apartments in big cities without real kitchens anymore, because people actually don't have any home cooking and have a complete just public life. And these things have our very deep interest. So we started to invite artists under the title A Good Neighbor. That was from mid-April last year, and then mid-July in Turkey. Well, things changed quite radically with the coup attempt. A lot of people starting also in the wake of that, losing their jobs, getting imprisoned, and the title suddenly got an extra twist by reality changing. So suddenly, like, a good neighbor meant other things as well. So in the biennial, there will of course also be touched upon the whole situation in the world today in relation to neighboring countries. We had Brexit since we got appointed curators. I don't know if if it's our fault, but we got Brexit. We got the idea of building a wall in between the US and Mexico, And we got the big crisis between Turkey and Europe and among a lot of different neighboring countries. So that will, of course, also be part of the biennial.
We also realize that there are limits in a way as a curator and as artists, what sort of subjects you can deal with directly. And as you mentioned earlier, we've been preoccupied with issues around identity, how we sort of organize our lives, how we live, how people operate on a micro scale, and how people basically coexist with their different identities. So the exhibition will, in a way, be representative of a world with many, many different identities presented side by side as neighbors, and maybe show, at least for these 2 months, that it's possible to live in some sort of harmony, although you come from very, very different backgrounds. So in a way, it's like looking in to look out. We hope that this can sort of reflect some of the issues that people are dealing with in the world right now.
The biennial will also take its shape according to us as artists having our experiences, taking part in biennials. So it will be a relatively small biennial because we know from our long career that 100 artists invited means you will never speak with the curator. We have taken part in so many biennials where we had so little communication with the curator, so we have between us invited 60 artists, that's 30 each, so we can actually have a real communication with the artist. We have 30 new commissions though of the 60 artists invited, and we have also decided that we are not academics that have been trained in the curatorial practice, and we shouldn't pretend being that. So our press statement, for instance, took a quite artistic format when we were presenting the biennial in Istanbul, and our press statement consisted of 40 questions of, is a good neighbor this, is a good neighbor that? And for that event we invited a wonderful group of different people from Istanbul, all kind of ages, all kind of backgrounds, to go on stage one by one and ask these questions.
I'll just play a couple of clips that have also been spread in social media afterwards.
İyi bir komşu hemen taşınıp giden birisi midir?
İyi bir komşu, komşu bir ülkeden midir?
Is a good neighbor someone who has a close the borders stickers on their car?
And there's one more.
İyi bir komşu sizinkinden daha geniş bir aileye sahip birisi midir?
İyi bir komşu, evinde hayvan beslemeyen bir aile midir?
İyi bir komşu sizinle aynı gazeteyi mi okur?
The live performance that took place during the press conference was also kind of an indicator of how we would like the artists to line up, map diverse identities, desires, dreams, visions, because of course there will be critical elements in the biennial, but it's also very important in these times for us to remember the visions that we have, the dreams we have. If things would change, we would have all of us to remember what did we actually dream about. And in this biennial there will be also quite hopeful and visionary statements from people who provide some kind of proposals for alternatives to current situations.
Of course, also as part of preparing a biennial, it's important to spend, of course, as much time as possible in the place where the biennial takes place, but we've also wanted to, of course, include positions from as many places in the world as possible. Now, there's not, the budget and the time and all the resources to go all around the world, but we've been lucky enough to be able to travel to the US, around in Europe, South America, South Africa, Asia, and feel that we found sort of work representative, at least of some different cultural realities in these different places that can in some way maybe challenge the way we perceive things here or in Turkey, but also what's important for us is to draw parallels at the moment between problems and issues that we deal with in the world right now. And that's not only done through the art, but the artists that you will see in the biennial when you hopefully come from September, but also done through a collaboration that we do with one photographer and our graphic designer, which is a billboard project where you may again use these different questions and combine them with imagery. And the little text and the questions will of course be in the language native to the place where the billboards will be shown. I mean, this is partly because we feel that it's our tendency at the moment to isolate problems to certain regions, and I think it's a lot of the questions we get around Turkey is also around a certain perception of a certain region in the world rather than trying to see things in a larger context.
It's also something we already dealt with when we were asked to do the national pavilions, the Danish and the Nordic pavilions in Venice, where we invited people from a lot of other places. We like with the billboard campaign that we kind of make the biennial not only the Istanbul biennial, but a biennial that is reaching out to other geographical locations, and that you somehow sense a sort of solidarity through doing that. Also, the public program in conjunction with the biennial is an important part where like a lot of voices and different groups will get a voice, and we can host them in a way in the context of the biennial. So the exhibition part of the biennial is only one part of the biennial for the whole activity going on.
Maybe we could also mention that the biennial this time is taking place in 5 venues that are quite close to each other. I mean, they're around more or less walking distance. For those of you who have been to the biennial before, it's many different formats in a way. I mean, it was Jens Hoffman and Adriano Pedrose's biennial that took place in only one site. Then 2 years ago it was in many, more than 30 locations spread all over the city. And I think for us, in relation to the theme and the situation right now, it's been important to sort of gather it in one area and make a sort of intimate situation around the biennial.
The neighborhood.
The neighborhood. So I think we're sort of coming to an end. Maybe we should just mention, as you said, the extension of the exhibition is also the obvious things, of course, like the publications. We're making 3 publications. There will be a reader around the theme of neighbors, neighborhood homes. There will be a short guide, of course, that explains all the different artworks presented, and then we make a storybook with about 45 contributions of many colleagues, friends, people from all over the world coming with their personal stories, associating to a good neighbor in the title.
All right, thank you very much.